So thank you everyone who has joined us right now. My name is Stephanie Guzman. I am Michael's co-host for the day. So this is our third Revizto Quick Dive of the year. It's titled BIM Made Easy for Non-Revit Experts. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of housekeeping items. So this webinar is being recorded and the link will be sent out tomorrow in the follow-up email. Please use the chat as you're doing right now to engage with us and other attendees. If you have any questions during the webinar, please leave it in the Q&A box here on Zoom. We'll be answering them at the end of the webinar. Please keep an eye out on the polls and participate live. And if you want to know more about Revizto and future webinars, please follow us on LinkedIn at Revizto. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about Michael O. He's the New York Territory Manager here at Revizto. He has over 10 years of technology sales experience in the AEC industry. He has worked for PlanGrid, Autodesk, Avere, and now Revizto. His journey has been remarkable, from supporting design and construction firms adopt digital 2D floor plans on iPads back in 2014 to now facilitating the adoption of advanced BIM VDC strategies that help clients deliver exceptional digital services.
Great. So thank you for the great introduction, Stephanie. So today we're talking Revizto, integrated collaboration platform. We're headquartered in Switzerland, founded in 2008. We specialize in merging all digital assets produced on a project, and we make that data easily accessible for the entire project team, which is very topical for today's webinar. Some figures to illustrate that Revizto is not a new kid around the block. If you were around a little earlier, kind of seeing the trivia, we were founded in 2008. And we're composed of 7 million lines of code, which is really a big testament and ability of our engineering and development team. We support more than 76,000 building projects across the globe, many hundreds of thousand users globally, and our clients really enjoy using us with a very high renewal rates. Once they use Revizto, implement it correctly, they typically tend to use Revizto on subsequent projects. And even though we've been in business for 15 years now, we're growing very fast at 60% year to year.
All right, so before we get started, we want to know more about how familiar you are with Revizto. So if you can see the poll right now, you can answer, I have seen Revizto, but I haven't used it. I'm a beginner user. I'm an intermediate advanced user, or this is your first time knowing and learning about Revizto. So Michael, we have a lot of people answering, which is great. Thank you. All right, so we see that there's a percentage that are a beginner user. They have seen Revizto but haven't used it. So let's show the results. Here we go. We have a good percentage that haven't seen Revizto. No, sorry, they have seen Revizto but haven't used it. Awesome. Thank you for participating in the poll. And Michael, the floor is all yours.
Great. Looks like we got a kind of a big mixed bag of folks who have used Revizto, familiar with Revizto, but haven't used it, and folks who are very new, which is very exciting to have all different kinds of people joining us today. So thank you for spending your time to be with us this afternoon or morning, depending on what time zone you are in. So today we're talking about how Revizto extends BIM access beyond VDC experts without complex BIM VDC overhead or implementation. So 3D modeling is becoming a common practice in our industry. Whether it's something that you see on your project frequently or not, it will undoubtedly sneak up on you. Whether it's due to project requirements through the owner or from internal processes of your design or trade partners, chances are there is 3D modeling taking place somewhere, somehow. However, it's always been a great challenge to get that data into the hands of everyone in a meaningful way. And this challenge, I think, is something that probably a lot of you in the audience can relate to. BIM is typically confined to BIM use is typically confined to a very narrow group of people on a project, and there are several reasons for this. One, BIM authoring tools like Revit are complex to learn, and it is a bit unreasonable for project managers, supers, and execs without the necessary VDC background to all of a sudden pick up Revit and know how to use it. Additionally, BIM data is quite often heavy and dense. It can take just 30 minutes to open up a BIM program, and only God knows whether we should wait or restart when a BIM program freezes, which I know a lot of people have can relate to as well. And finally, many parts make up a whole project. On a job, the design firms may be using a mixture of Revit and Rhino to produce their BIM models. MEP trades may be using a mixture of AutoCAD, Navisworks, Revit, structural using Tekla, and if heavy civil is involved, MicroStations and other Bentley tools. And all of these disparate tools don't usually do a very good job talking to each other. So with BIM data locked away in silos, we often then resort to very rudimentary ways to share that information. Someone on the job site needs to figure out what's behind the wall or above the ceiling. Well, maybe you're taking a screenshot and sending it over in an email, write it up. Maybe you're exporting some raw data into CSV, try to fit all that information to an Excel spreadsheet. At best, BIM data is severely diluted, and at worst, it's a big waste in time, effort, and money spent to produce these digital assets. So what does Revizto bring to the table? And part one of what I'm speaking today is how we extend that information beyond VDC experts. Revizto is a program downloaded on computers, tablets, and smartphones. We are available on any device for any user. We also cache data locally, so you can access all that information without internet access. If you are on a job site without connectivity, you're in a basement somewhere, or if you're on a tunnel projects many feet or meters below the surface, you need something that's reliable without internet connectivity. We also have tremendous load capacity. In New York, where I'm based, we are on mega projects like JFK Airport, Terminal 1, Buffalo Bill Stadium, where over 200 models, 10,000 drawings, many point clouds make up a project, and it can all be loaded up on your iPhone. But just because it's available on a variety of ways of different type of devices, that necessarily isn't enough to extend all that information to non-VDC experts. With such a crowded field of different programs and protocols being used in our industry, Revizto needed an open BIM standard. We accept whatever file type available. This is just a glimpse of different programs and companies that we integrate with. However your digital assets are created, we don't care. All that matters is that eventually funnels into the direction of Revizto, and we combine them all into a single view. So what you end up with is a hybrid workflow. Revizto supports 2D workflows and 3D workflows. The only difference between the two can be a click of a button. Now, project teams are much less frustrated or even intimidated to leverage BIM data on a day-to-day basis because they can continue to work primarily off of maybe 2D workflows that they're familiar with, and then jump to the 3D environment only when necessary. Issues, comments, viewpoints created on the drawing or a section or a detail will also exist in the 3D model and vice versa. So Revizto can extend BIM access beyond VDC experts, but then you might say, so what, Michael? We don't have a 10-person BIM department or we don't have interns or recent grads with the technical aptitude ready to pick up and learn how Revizto is set up. Well, don't leave yet, because Revizto can be set up without complex VDC overhead and implementation. When you download Revizto on your computer, you get several programs. You get the main Revizto program, our VR program, and our export scheduler. Once authoring tools like Revit, Navisworks, or whatever is hooked to your Revizto project, which is a very easy 5 to 10 minute process, you can manage how that data is transferred over using our export scheduler. And this can be done without ever opening up the main Revizto program if you're an admin. You can then coordinate with your partners and consultants who are doing the modeling. And whenever, and then you can start to schedule automatically when Revizto pulls that BIM data from the authoring tools. And this can happen at a scheduled time, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, if the project requires it. And you yourself don't need to do any modeling in-house, as long as someone somewhere is modeling on the project. And the automation of pulling a BIM data into the Revizto program can then be stacked with automated tasks. So we are scheduled to release a big upgrade to our export scheduler next month in October. And we will start to support actions like running class tests, assigning issues automatically. Revizto program can be templatized in terms of all these class test configuration, our issue automation program. So from a project to project, you can, throughout the entire portfolio of your projects, essentially you can copy and paste your Revizto setup. And to illustrate what the scheduled data upload and task automation could look like, here is an illustration of our cascading of automated tasks. Across steps 1 through 4, you see here from say what the beginning trigger is when the MEP model is uploaded into Revizto. If for whatever reason the task fails, things will stop, the admin will be notified. If it's successful, it'll move on to step 2. It'll then upload the structural model, likely Tekla, when MEP was likely Revit. Again, if that is successful, with the Revit model and the Tekla model now within Revizto, we will automatically run clash tests that was pre-configured, and our services team can help you organize and figure out what template works for you and what type of projects. And then once that clash test has run, we can sync that to the issue tracker and disseminate and distribute all the identified clashes and issues to the designated users. So really, this can happen all overnight. And say you have your coordination meetings on Wednesdays, this can start to trigger on a Tuesday evening, and Wednesday morning, by the time everyone comes into the office, you don't have to go through the process. What you instead are left with actionable issues assigned to the users. Now you can go about, start your day tackling this first thing in the morning. And this is the Revizto effect. We help accelerate your coordination process with automation. And probably a good time actually to shout out an earlier webinar that we had this year with EDIS and my colleague John McCurdy, because they use some hard numbers and it's a fantastic presentation on ROI case study using Revizto on a project in the Northeast in the United States. So this is actually the final slide of my presentation today. Revizto has a very diverse group of customers. And Revizto can be used differently depending on the setup and the core user base. Starting off from the left in project discovery and pursuits, we have clients using Revizto as a sales tool, where your using as an advantage to take it up during bids. And architects and engineers are using Revizto during DD and CD for design reviews, and starting to fold in general contractors and CMs for constructability reviews. And really, where Revizto truly shines is number 4, coordination and clash detection, the BIM digital collaboration between general contractors, all the trades that's involved, and include the design teams as well. And of course, something that I've covered, field usage. Uh, our mobile capability across tablets and phones, and the fact that we are able to really compress data using our Unity gaming engine and make it easily accessible without crashing. Really, it's kind of remarkable whenever I visit our client job site on some of these mega projects and they're walking around and being able to pull up all the necessary information on their phones and iPads. And finally, in an ideal world, Revizto is used from outside of a project, and it starts to capture all the data that is created from the design work, and then through construction, and all of that data is captured, and then that could be used as a deliverable to the owner for facility management and operation.
Thank you, Mike.
So, yeah, go ahead, Steph.
So we have our last poll of the webinar. We would love to know if you want to know more about what you heard today. Please let us know in the poll and we can move on to Q&A. So we can go to the next slide, Michael. Awesome. So if you have any questions, please let us know. You can add them to the Q&A box or feel free to put it in the chat. But I got a question in private from someone asking, I don't have a BIM team. I typically hire outside consultants. How would I go about using Revizto?
Yeah, certainly a scenario that we have seen quite often, where outside consultants are hired to produce a deliverable for an owner to meet the project requirements. And that is absolutely fine. However, something to keep in mind of is that what often happens is that it becomes very siloed, where Revizto is used only by the BIM consultants. And whether it's a general contractor or the owner who hires a BIM consultants, they're never really actively engaged in use of Revizto and producing the digital assets. So the best way I've seen how BIM consultants are used, even though you don't have internal BIM team or internal drafting or BIM capabilities, is just like how described in our presentation today. Be part of the setup, be part of the workflows, because you don't need to have the 3D expertise. You could continue to work primarily off of 2D while you collaborate with your BIM consultants who will take up the majority of the 3D workflow and tasks. And what becomes really valuable then is at the end, you still get to have participate in producing these deliverables, which I know can go a long way with meeting client expectations.
Thank you, Michael. We have another question. As a user, I wanted to learn more about how do you implement various workflows that were released in July update to individual clash conditions while running an automated test.
Yeah, that's quite a loaded question to tackle on the fly without a demo environment open. But I would recommend that you reach out to your regional account territory manager, because we have a wealth of resources available for you, whether it's on our new learning program, Red Academy. We have a online program help page that you can search on your own if you kind of want to tackle it first from your computer, but also work with our really fantastic, talented customer success team. And we do quite frequently work with some of our biggest clients, some of the biggest projects, and whoever kind of requires it to work hand in hand to develop templates, workflows, document it, so you can then take it and scale it and begin to train your users yourselves.
Thank you, Michael. And then we have several questions about what type of licenses we have available at Revizto.
Yeah, so what's the most common licensing Revizto on a project basis? And this is really for as an introductory to Revizto. Project-based license allows unlimited user access, and that is really key. Revizto really markets ourselves as a collaboration software. So it's really important that you have the freedom to extend that invitation to as many people as you like. And as you have a couple of, you hear some New York sirens, sorry about that. Um, as you start to implement Revizto on multiple projects and you become familiarized with it, then it might make sense to kind of think about other licensing programs that we have available for some of our more seasoned clients.
All right, we have another question. Can you please expand on how the automated exporter can be set up with a subcontractor?
Yeah. So, and this kind of goes hand in hand with what I just talked about with a project-based licensing, where you are able to share Revizto access to whoever, and we have a very robust permissioning capabilities. So it really depends. I've seen really two different philosophies where there are those who prefer to kind of consolidate all your subcontractor models and then upload it together in a federated fashion yourself. So there's kind of like one throat to choke, so to speak. Or the other philosophy is that you trust your partners and there's some training that happen and some awareness of what Revizto does and give them the freedom to connect their own authoring tools to Revit. Of course, you can set up some guardrails with different permissioning and then have them push Revizto or push BIM models into Revizto. In that case, of course, a strong BIM execution plan is important. So you can earlier on communicate to everyone involved. On this day, that's when set the expectation on which days subcontractors will need to upload those models to the project.
All right, we're going to answer two more questions. Someone says, can Revizto be used for field installation? Do tablets need constant connection to Wi-Fi to work?
Yeah, absolutely. Revizto can be used for field installations, and it is being used for field installations. You're able to create custom properties that is associated with each of the BIM models, and then you can kind of mass select it depending on specific trades, maybe structural beams in certain area of zone, and then you can start to tag it whether has it been fabricated? Has it been delivered? Has it been installed? And to answer the second part of your question, tablets do not need constant Wi-Fi connections to work. Actually, what we often recommend is that before you leave for the job site and you have access to strong Wi-Fi, download all that data and make it cached locally to your hardware device. So you're essentially using Revizto without any internet connectivity. You can make all your updates, even if it's in airplane mode. As soon as you regain internet connection, you will push out all the updates and receive all the updates as well.
And the last question, has there been any interaction/collaboration with Revizto with any AI platforms for QA/QC purposes in design?
Great question. I don't have an answer for you, but I do know these are things that's being explored by our development team. And if you are a client of ours, I would recommend having a conversation with our customer success team. Our customer success team, again, is composed of pretty much everyone who comes from the industry. from some of the largest construction and engineering firms who some of them used to be a client of ours and now kind of jump ship and is now helping other customers really adopt and implement Revizto. They are the gateway to kind of getting a peek into what our development team is doing. And I'm sure they would love to have your feedback because they are taking that to our dev team and letting them know, hey, this is what the market wants, and so this is what we need to build.
Great. So thank you everyone for joining. So we can go to the next slide, Michael. All right, so this is Michael's information. If you want to know more about Revizto, you can contact him directly through email or follow him on LinkedIn. And if you want to know more about Revizto, you can follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or X, and also see our videos on YouTube. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.